Dancing in the garden. Are you there? Are you there? Shine on, friend. Good night.
Misguided interpretations of quantum physics are another classic hallmark of pseudoscience.
Oh God, I hate that.
Usually of the New Age variety, but some religious groups are now appealing to aspects of quantum weirdness to account for free will. Beware, this is nonsense. Now, they're actually, up until very recently, it was still arguable. A theory to account for consciousness in terms of some quantum effect in the brain, having to do with microtubules. You know what I'm talking about?
Not
I think
really,
I think it's Dyson. Anyway,
Freeman Dyson?
can't be Freeman Dyson.
No.
I'm thinking of the wrong guy. Anyway,
Okay.
the point is, there was recently a study of the specific type of quantum effect that some scientists were legitimately proposing as a mechanism to explain consciousness in quantum deterministic terms.
Okay.
And the study revealed that the specific type of quantum event that they wanted to invoke required much higher temperatures than can exist in a human brain without killing you.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so that's it. Even the one example of a scientific. I want to call it scientific, and I don't want to call it anti. It's actual scientists proposing a thing, right? The one example of that involving quantum effects appears to have been now finally shot down.
Oh.
But I also want to comment, I think this author is behind the times. I wrote an article in my blog. Well, it wasn't a blog at that time. Back in like 2000, 2001, Time magazine ran an article called Science Finds God. Mm-hmm. And in that,
well, they always do that. It's like every few months some magazine will run something about the startling discovery that some scientists are religious.
But there was a report in there from a conference where it was theistic scientists, laying out all their excuses for how their religion could fit within the bounds of known science.
Right.
And one of the things in that article, this is like 8 or 9 years ago, was, there's quantum effects and we don't understand them well, so therefore that could be where God tinkers with stuff.
There's a really big gap that we can stuff our God in now.
So this is not all that new,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned. When you come across terms like Darwinism or Darwinists, take heed. True scientists rarely use these terms and instead opt for evolution and biologists, respectively. When evolution is described as a blind, random, undirected process, be warned. While genetic mutations may be random, natural selection is not. When cells are described as astonishingly complex molecular machines, it is generally by breathless supporters of ID who take the metaphor literally and assume that such a machine requires an engineer. If an author wishes for academic freedom, it is usually ID code for the acceptance of creationism. I should point out, this I take this article as just advice from this editor,
Right.
and not a set of hard and fast rules. It's
Sure.
entirely possible for an actual scientist to use the word Darwinist in an article and not be an ID supporter.
Right.
Right. These are just things that are very, very, very common.
It's
Yes.
rare when I hear somebody use the word Darwinist at all in a discussion. I think 100% of the time it's a creationist.
Yeah.
In my limited experience.
Right. As a transhumanist, I often refer to human beings as meat machines, but by using the word machine, I don't mean to imply that there must have been a machinist.
Right.
To put the fact that I'm invoking meat because I know that things made of meat evolve, and things made of cellulose. Some general sentiments are also red flags. Authors with religious motives make shameless appeals to common sense. From the staid, there is nothing we can be more certain of than the reality of our sense of self, James Le Fanu in Why Us, I guess that's a book, To the silly, your granny was an ape by creationist blogger Denise O'Leary. Is that Denise or Dennis?
It's Denise.
Denise O'Leary.
It's a woman. And she is featured and ridiculed fairly regularly on Pharyngula.
Yeah, I recognize the name, but didn't know the pronunciation. If common sense were a reliable guide, we wouldn't need science in the first place. Religiously motivated authors also have a bad habit of thinking that the cultural implications of linking the cultural implications of a theory to the truth value of the theory. The ID crowd, for instance, loves to draw a line from Darwin to the Holocaust, as they did in the documentary film Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed. Even if such an absurd link were justified, it would have no relevance to the question of whether or not the theory of evolution is correct. Similarly, when Le Fanu writes that Darwin's On the Origin of Species articulated the desire of many scientists for an exclusively materialist explanation of natural history that would liberate it from the sticky fingers of the theological interference, his statement has no bearing on the scientific merits of evolution. It is crucial to the public's intellectual health to know when science is really science. Those with a religious agenda will continue to disguise their true views in their effort to win supporters. So please, read between the lines.
Yeah. When somebody comes at me with the notion that scientists are all biased in favor of naturalistic explanations, I usually reply, hey, I'm all for finding a supernatural explanation if there is one. Just give me a way to test it.
Yes.
When you come up with a reasonable test for the supernatural thing that you think is driving the evolution, then we'll talk, and then maybe you can even get published. If you come up with a test that would support your hypothesis and not the perfectly good natural explanations that we've already got, then you might have something new.
Dancing in the garden, are you there? Are you there? Shine.